You won't believe the toys kids in the 1970s had. They were ahead of their time in so many ways. There's one toy that's still unforgettable for anyone who remembers. Imagine holding an object in your hands that could take you to another world. In a time before smartphones and tablets, toys like this amazed everyone. Every kid was glued to it for hours on end. But as time passed, these toys were pushed aside, replaced by new tech. In the 1970s, toys had more magic than we realize today. No, they didn't have fancy screens or high-tech gadgets. Yet they held our attention like nothing else. What made them so special? The answer is simpler than you think. The toys from that era were interactive, educational, and surprisingly fun. Today, many of those toys are nearly impossible to find. But don't worry, I'm about to take you through 5 that will blow your mind. Stay tuned, because in just a moment, you'll see some of these forgotten treasures. I'm about to show you the hidden gems of a bygone era. The 70s was a time of creativity, where children's imaginations ran wild. As I show you these toys, you'll likely feel a wave of nostalgia. You'll remember the sound, the colors, and the excitement of those simpler days. So, if you're ready to go back in time, keep watching and let's dive in. Let's kick things off with one of the most iconic toys. The Viewmaster was a classic that had everyone captivated. Do you remember how it worked? You'd load in a disc and peer through the viewer. As you clicked through, each slide would take you to another world. Whether it was a nature scene or a trip to the moon, it felt real. Back then, it was the closest thing to a virtual reality experience. Only 1970s kids truly get the magic of this toy. But it wasn't just the Viewmaster that stole the show. There was a toy that made every child feel like a pilot. The Whirly Bird was one of the most exciting toys to have. It had a spinning rotor that would keep children engaged for hours. The toy's simplicity didn't take away from its excitement. In fact, it was the perfect combination of fun and challenge. Kids would try to get the bird to hover, testing their skills with every turn. Who knew such a simple toy would leave such a lasting memory? Another standout from the 70s was the Stretch Armstrong doll. This toy was a stretchable muscular figure that defied all logic. The idea was simple. Pull his arms and legs as far as you could. He'd bounce back to his original form without breaking. Kids loved to challenge each other to see who could stretch him the furthest. It was surprisingly durable for its time, making it a toy that could last through hours of play. Stretch Armstrong had one purpose: fun, and it succeeded at it. Next up, we have the iconic Lite-Brite. This toy was a favorite in many households. You'd take colorful pegs and push them through black paper. With a light bulb inside, the pegs would illuminate, creating beautiful designs. It allowed kids to be both artistic and imaginative. The best part? You could create endless designs and light up the night. This was no ordinary craft toy. It brought your artwork to life in a way that was mesmerizing. It's a toy that many 70s kids remember fondly. Speaking of creativity, let's talk about Spirograph. This toy was all about making intricate, colorful designs. Using special pens and a set of gears, kids could create spirals and geometric patterns. Each turn of the gear would create a new, beautiful piece of art. It wasn't just a toy, it was a way to express creativity. With endless combinations, no two designs were the same. To this day, it remains one of the best toys to inspire budding artists. It's amazing how something so simple could be so captivating. Now, let's take a moment to reflect. These toys weren't just objects, they were part of our childhood. They represented a time when things were more straightforward. There was no rush, just hours of imaginative play. We didn't need technology to have fun. The simplicity of these toys allowed kids to bond with each other. Whether it was trading Viewmaster discs or competing to stretch Armstrong, there was a sense of community. It's hard to find that kind of connection in today's world. The 1970s toys didn't just entertain, they created memories. And that's something you can't replicate with modern gadgets. Sure, today's technology has its perks, but it doesn't offer the same sense of wonder. The toys we grew up with were tactile, engaging, and built on simple, timeless ideas. The best part? They encouraged social play, something that's harder to find today. So, if you remember any of these toys, you're part of a special generation. Now keep watching as I reveal more forgotten treasures from that golden era. Let's move on to one of the most beloved toys from the 70s. The Hot Wheels cars were a must-have for every young boy. These small, colorful cars came with their own tracks and loops. Racing them around the house became an intense competition. The speed and thrill of seeing them zoom by was unmatched. What made Hot Wheels unique was the endless customization possibilities. You could build your own tracks, combining loops, jumps, and ramps to create your perfect racing circuit. But don't think the 70s was only about cars and action figures. There was another toy that brought a sense of adventure to the mix. The Erector set allowed kids to build their own creations using metal beams and screws. It was like constructing a tiny city from scratch. Whether you built a crane, a bridge, or a tower, the possibilities were endless. This toy inspired a whole generation to dream big and think like engineers. It wasn't just about playing, it was about learning through hands-on creation. One toy that kept kids entertained for hours was the Rock'em Sock'em robots. The premise was simple, but addictive. Two robots battled it out. The goal? Knock your opponent's head off. It became a staple in many living rooms across America. Kids would get lost in the excitement of the combat, cheering for their robot as it punched. There was a certain magic in those hours of fierce competition. The best part? It wasn't just the robots that made the game fun, it was the shared experience with friends. Speaking of shared experiences, another toy that allowed for group play was Simon. The electronic game tested your memory and reflexes. A series of colored lights flashed, and you had to replicate the sequence. It started off easy but quickly grew more complex. The faster you were, the more lights and sounds would appear. This game became a challenge for all ages, sparking a friendly rivalry. It wasn't about luck, it was about skill and focus. Simon had everyone hooked, trying to beat their own high score. Another unforgettable toy of the 70s was the Big Wheel. This tricycle-style ride had a large front wheel and a low frame. It was perfect for speeding down the driveway or around the neighborhood. Kids would race to see who could go the fastest or do the coolest tricks. The sensation of riding a big wheel was like nothing else. It felt like freedom, like you were in control of your own mini race. The toy's design was simple, yet it gave kids the thrill of real speed. By now, you've seen how toys in the 70s were designed to excite the imagination. But let's not forget the power of simplicity. Sometimes it was the most basic toys that left the greatest impact. Take the Rubik's Cube, for example. This colorful puzzle became a global sensation. It challenged kids and adults alike to solve its twisted mystery. The frustration of not being able to solve it made the success even sweeter. It wasn't just a toy, it was a mental workout. The Rubik's Cube still holds a special place in pop culture today. Another toy that was a real game changer was the Fisher-Price action figures. These plastic figures were designed for young children but had remarkable durability. They came with a variety of vehicles and accessories, making the possibilities endless. Whether it was a rescue mission or a wild adventure, the action figures could do it all. Kids could create entire worlds, from jungles to outer space. These little figures provided the framework for some of the most imaginative play sessions. They were as much about storytelling as they were about the toys themselves. Let's switch gears for a moment and talk about one of the most iconic 70s toys that was both fun and educational. The Talk and Play radio introduced kids to interactive learning in a new way. With the press of a button, children could listen to songs, stories, and games. It wasn't just a toy, it was an experience. The colorful buttons and bright, engaging sounds made learning feel like fun, and kids were able to engage with it by following along with the rhythm and words. It became a tool for both entertainment and development. Then there was the Stretch Monster, a cousin of the famous Stretch Armstrong. This toy was unique because it was filled with a gooey, stretchable substance that made it incredibly fun to pull and twist. Kids would spend hours stretching and twisting it into funny shapes, watching as it slowly returned to its original form. The design was quirky, and the material felt like something out of a sci-fi movie. It wasn't just about play, it was about the tactile experience. Stretch Monster added a different kind of fun that kids had never seen before. Now, let's take a step back and think about what made these toys so special. They weren't just about entertainment, they were about creativity. Every toy had a purpose, whether it was building, racing, or puzzling. The 70s toys were much more than objects. They were gateways to imagination. They taught kids how to problem solve, interact with others, and create their own stories. These simple interactive toys laid the foundation for generations of innovators and creators. They weren't just toys, they were tools for growing up. Let's dive back into more unforgettable toys from the 1970s. One of the most fun and challenging toys was Kerplunk. This game involved a tube full of marbles, and the goal was to carefully remove sticks to prevent the marbles from falling. The tension would build with every stick removed, and the moment the marbles started dropping was always a thrill. It was a game of strategy, suspense, and a little bit of luck. Kerplunk kept kids on the edge of their seats, and it became a favorite during family game nights. Who could resist the pressure of keeping the marbles safe? Another toy that took imagination to the next level was the Creepy Crawlers. This toy allowed kids to make their own rubber bugs and critters using molds and a special oven. It might sound strange, but making creepy crawlers was incredibly fun. Kids would pick their favorite colors and shapes, pour the goo into molds, and bake them in the mini oven. Once they were done, they had their very own collection of rubber bugs to show off. It wasn't just about playing with the final product, it was about creating it from scratch, and that made it so much more special. No discussion of 70s toys would be complete without mentioning Star Wars action figures. With the release of the film in 1977, kids were suddenly able to hold a piece of the galaxy in their hands. Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, and Princess Leia became household names. These small action figures could be posed and played with in endless ways. Kids created their own Star Wars adventures, pretending to fight in epic battles or explore the galaxy. The Star Wars figures were so popular that they became collector's items decades later. The toys connected with kids on a deeper level, making them feel part of something much bigger. Moving on, let's talk about the $6 Million Man action figure. Based on the popular TV show, this toy was one of the most advanced action figures of its time. What made it so cool was the bionic features, like his ability to stretch his arm and make a bionic noise. The figure had a plastic arm that could be stretched, showing off his superhuman strength. The $6 Million Man gave kids the chance to act out heroic adventures. With his bionic arm and his special abilities, it felt like anything was possible. The figure was a big hit among fans of the show. Another toy that truly defined the 70s was the Parker Brothers Twister. The game wasn't just a toy, it was a test of flexibility and balance. Players would twist and turn on a mat covered with colorful dots. The goal was to place your hands and feet on the right colors as the spinner dictated. As the game went on, players would get tangled up in hilarious ways. Twister brought out the competitive side in everyone. It was also one of the few games that could break down social barriers, making it an instant hit at parties. Its popularity remained strong even decades later. Then there was Rock Tumbler, a toy that allowed kids to turn rough rocks into shiny gems. With this machine, children could place stones inside a rotating barrel. As it spun, the rocks would grind against each other, polishing them to a glossy finish. It was fascinating to watch how ordinary rocks could become shiny treasures. Kids loved collecting different types of stones and polishing them into gems. The Rock Tumbler turned geology into a fun, hands-on learning experience. It sparked an interest in the natural world, showing kids the beauty hidden beneath the surface. As we continue to explore these incredible toys, Let's talk about Fisher-Price Little People. These simple wooden people figurines became a beloved toy for young children. What made them so special was their versatility. Kids would create entire towns with buildings, cars, and farms. Each Little People set could tell a different story, from a trip to the zoo to a day at the beach. These toys didn't require much imagination to be fun, but they definitely encouraged it. The Little People became a gateway for young kids to explore their own creativity and storytelling. Battleship was another iconic game from the 70s. This strategic game was all about guessing where your opponent's ships were hidden. The idea was simple: sink your opponent's fleet before they sank yours. The thrill came from the suspense as each player made their move. Would your shot hit, or would it miss? The click of the pegs made each round feel more intense. Battleship taught kids about strategy, patience, and thinking ahead. It wasn't just a game, it was a battle of wits. Even today, it remains a classic game that's enjoyed by people of all ages. We can't forget the Slinky. This simple spring toy was a classic in every sense. Kids would watch in awe as the Slinky walked downstairs, seemingly defying gravity. The way it bounced and moved across surfaces was magical. The toy wasn't just a toy, it was a form of entertainment that could keep kids busy for hours. The Slinky was fun for all ages, and it sparked creativity in how it was used. Whether it was racing downstairs or bouncing around on the floor, the Slinky was a toy that always brought joy. And who could forget the Easy Bake Oven? It was the toy that allowed kids to bake their own treats. With a small oven and a variety of ingredients, kids could create tiny cakes, cookies, and other baked goods. It was more than just a toy. It was an introduction to the kitchen. The oven even came with little mix packets for specific recipes. The thrill of baking something from scratch was unmatched. Plus, you got to enjoy the delicious result. It gave children the chance to be creative in the kitchen and feel like they were actual chefs. Now let's talk about one of the most beloved outdoor toys of the 70s, the hula hoop. This simple hoop became a must-have for kids everywhere. The goal was to spin it around your waist, but many took it a step further. Some kids could hoop around their arms or legs, creating incredible patterns. It became a challenge to see how long you could keep it spinning. The hula hoop wasn't just about movement. It was about rhythm and balance. With a few simple spins, you could create hours of entertainment, and it was always fun to try new tricks. Even today, it's a popular fitness tool. Let's switch things up a bit with a toy that combined fun with creativity: Play-Doh. This colorful dough allowed kids to shape anything they could imagine. Whether you were building animals, food, or abstract shapes, Play-Doh brought your creations to life. It wasn't just a toy, it was a tool for self-expression. Kids would sit for hours molding and reshaping their dough creations, letting their imagination run wild. The best part? If you didn't like your creation, you could always squish it and start over. Play-Doh offered endless possibilities for artistic expression and was a staple in every 70s home. One of the most unique toys of the 1970s was the Magic 8-Ball. This small, black sphere had a mysterious and almost magical quality. When shaken, it would reveal a cryptic answer to any yes or no question. Whether you were asking about your future or making important decisions, the Magic 8-Ball was your guide. It wasn't just a toy, it was a fun way to play with fate. Kids would gather around asking silly questions and shaking the ball to get an answer. Even though it was based on random chance, the mystery of the answers made it irresistible. The 70s also introduced a toy that captured the fascination of both kids and adults: the pet rock. Believe it or not, this was actually a fad that took the world by storm. The idea was simple: a rock in a box with breathing holes and a straw for bedding. While it didn't do much, it became a hilarious trend. It was a commentary on how absurd trends could become mainstream. People loved the joke, and the pet rock became a symbol of 70s culture. It's a toy that's hard to forget, mainly because it had no purpose but still captured everyone's attention. If you were a fan of action and adventure, G.I. Joe was the toy for you. These action figures were more than just toys. They were miniature soldiers embarking on epic missions. With their detailed uniforms and accessories, G.I. Joe figures could take on any challenge. They could explore jungles, battle villains, or save the world. The G.I. Joe toys encouraged kids to create complex stories and battles. With their removable gear and poses, these figures gave kids the ability to play out their wildest scenarios. They remain an iconic part of toy history to this day. Let's talk about another game that kept kids entertained for hours. Monopoly. While this game wasn't exclusive to the 70s, it was definitely a staple in many households during that time. The goal was simple: buy properties, collect rent, and bankrupt your opponents. However, the fun came in the strategy and negotiation. The game could take hours to complete, and it often sparked heated debates. But despite the long hours, it was always satisfying to finally buy Boardwalk or Park Place. Monopoly taught kids about money, negotiation, and planning for the future, all while having fun. Moving to something a little more creative, let's revisit Lincoln Logs. These wooden logs allowed children to build everything from small cabins to large skyscrapers. The simple, log-like design made it easy for kids to stack them and create anything they wanted. It was like building with Legos, but in a more rustic, natural way. The best part? You could connect the logs to form sturdy structures that could stand the test of time. Lincoln Logs encouraged kids to think like architects and engineers, teaching them the basics of construction in a fun and accessible way. Now, for something that was a true favorite among girls in the 1970s. Barbie. Barbie wasn't just a doll, she was a cultural icon. With her wide array of outfits and accessories, Barbie could be anything: a doctor, a fashionista, or even an astronaut. She sparked imagination and creativity as kids would create entire worlds around her. The Barbie dream house was just the beginning, with cars, pets, and friends expanding the world of Barbie. She wasn't just a toy. She was a character who evolved with the times. Barbie's influence can still be seen in pop culture today. Let's not forget the Shogun Warriors action figures, which were huge in the 70s. These giant robots were inspired by Japanese animation and became a hit in America. Kids would recreate epic battles with these large, intricate figures. They had movable arms and legs, making them even more fun to play with. The Shogun Warriors were perfect for kids who loved big robots and big adventures. Their size and design made them stand out among other action figures, and they offered a new type of play experience. As we wrap up this trip down memory lane, we can't help but appreciate the toys of the 1970s. They were simple, yet so much fun. They taught us creativity, problem-solving, and the importance of play. Even though many of these toys are no longer in production, their impact on our childhoods can never be forgotten. These toys weren't just about entertainment. They were about shaping a generation. Whether it was the Viewmaster, Hot Wheels, or Barbie, each toy had a unique way of making our childhood unforgettable. And for those of us who remember, these toys will always hold a special place in our hearts.